Hey, what's going on, folks? It's Larry at Packmasters Dog Training. Let's jump right into it here. So, I talk to a lot of trainers that have issues with dogs that are in for training and they're going to do some e-collar training with that have already been through some very negative e-collar training where the dog hasn't had a good experience. And a lot of trainers think that they just have to avoid the e-collar and not use it. Completely untrue, okay? Completely untrue. For a long time, a good percentage of the dogs that I used to see had already been through some kind of dog training and some kind of e-collar program. Usually not a good program, usually not the way I do it or a lot of us do it today, where there was just a lot of compulsion, a lot of correcting, a lot of punishing, where it wasn't a good experience. The dog hated the e-collar. They all come around, okay? So there's a couple of different situations let's touch on. And the reason I'm bringing this up now and answering this question is I'll talk about the Rottweiler I have now here, the female Rottweiler, Heike. I had a interesting experience yesterday with her that I'll go over, okay? So there's a few different things you'll see. This is mostly for trainers that use e-collars. Sometimes you get a dog in that's already been through an e-collar program, like I said, but it wasn't a good program, okay? A lot of compulsion, a lot of punishing, a lot of correcting. It was a bad experience, all right? People want to know, what can I do to change that, or should I just avoid the e-collar? No, don't avoid the e-collar. Like I said, you start the process the same way. At least I start the process the same way I do with every dog, and it's not an issue, okay? Over many, many years, 100% of the dogs that I have seen that have been associated with bad e-collar training turn around very quickly. It's not even an issue, guys. You don't do anything different. You do everything the same. The dogs change very quickly, all right? Now, there's dogs, a lot of us see dogs that are trained with an underground fence, okay? So obviously, if the dog is trained with underground fence, they have experienced a very negative association with that underground fence. That's why they work. When we start the process with the e-collar with those dogs, the first thing we do is when we have the e-collar on the dog and we're searching for the dog's level, remember, we always start at the lowest possible level that the dog perceives. Almost every single dog trained with an underground fence has the same reaction. They'll have a normal reaction before they feel it, and then the second they feel something, the mouth closes, the breathing stops, and they freeze because they're scared to move. They don't know where that boundary is. They associate it with an underground fence, so they don't know what to do. Again, those dogs, they all turn around very, very quickly. Okay, very quickly. We don't do anything different with those dogs. They learn very quickly that nothing bad is happening, and they learn to associate the conditioning process with the e-collar with good things. A lot of praise, a lot of food, a lot of play. Very, very simple. Again, we do nothing different. Now, there is one situation that causes a little more stress, and it can be a little more complicated, and I experienced this again last night, and I've experienced it many times over the years. Heike, the female Rottweiler I have here. I started the e-collar conditioning yesterday evening, late evening, early evening yesterday. Her first 24, 36 hours here, she's made tremendous progress. I mean, I'm really happy with her. She's really coming into her own very quickly. So I decided it was time to start the e-collar conditioning. When I started it, I had no, I've been doing this a long time and use the e-collar a lot, and it always goes pretty well. With Heike, it went absolutely awful. It couldn't have gone any worse, okay? Couldn't have gone any worse. Her reaction to any sensation from the e-collar, I'm talking really low levels, a number 5 is where she started feeling it on a mini educator, and she lost it. She freaked. She had an absolutely terrible association to it. Now, of course, there's no pain involved on a number 5. There's not even any discomfort involved with that. She barely feels it. But the second she did, she freaked and had a really bad association with it. And here's why. For one, she has had some e-collar training when she was young, but I know nothing about the training, so I can't comment on that. Obviously it wasn't a lot of training. So she has had an e-collar on before. I have no idea how it was used. But the thing is, Heike has been trained with an underground fence. Here is the situation that does cause problems, and I've seen this many times. She has gone through the underground fence many times, okay? And I've had several dogs over the years. These are the dogs. Actually, they're the only dogs that have a real bad reaction when we start conditioning to the e-collar. And every single time I have a dog that's been trained with an underground fence, but that every now and then will blow through the underground fence, that does create some problems because their association to it is really bad, because they've been nailed at really high levels multiple times. And then what happens is a lot of them will try to get back in, and that really is a bad experience, okay? So in the dog's mind, this is worst case scenario. This is some bad stuff, okay? Really bad associations, all right? So I'm not going to not train her completely like I do with all dogs. She's going to go through the whole process. So it's my job to make it as easy as possible on her and teach her and show her that no, nothing bad's going to happen, all right? So I'll just give you a little summary of what I did last night to change how she perceived it before we ended the night, okay? So I started the e-collar conditioning probably around 5:30 p.m., all right? By 9:30 p.m., she was completely fine with it, was having a fantastic reaction and responding to it like most dogs do. So what I did, okay, this isn't nothing exciting, but I know many of you guys experienced this. So again, the second I started the conditioning, her response was awful, was bad. She freaked, she tried to run away, she rolled on the ground, she ducked her head, she hid behind me, all kinds of bad things. She tried to get back in the house. That's where she's safe, okay? What I did at this time was, of course, she's not going to take any food. That was shut down. So there is no normal conditioning process like we normally do. So what I did was I started the conditioning process normally, but without food. So what I did on a number 5, that's where she first felt it. 4, she feels nothing. 5, she freaks out, okay? The second she felt anything. So on a number 5, her lowest level that she perceives, I hold the continuous button down. I say, Heike, come, and I give her a little leash pressure, helping her. And at first, she's trying to run away, but then the second she gives into that leash pressure, the timing is very important, guys. I release that e-collar, and I praise her. She comes to me, I praise her. Now, she's at my feet and her head is down and she doesn't look good, okay? She's having a hard time with this. And then I release her. And she tries to run back in the house. I do the same thing over and over and over, probably for about 5 minutes, okay? Just for about 5 minutes. And then what I did after that 5 minutes of, her having a pretty bad experience, I put her away. I put her in her pen and I let her relax. 10 minutes later, I come outside and I did it again. Same exact thing. She still had a bad reaction, but it was just slightly better, just a little bit better this time. I did that same thing for 5 more minutes, okay? After 5 minutes, I put her back in her pen. 10 minutes later, I took her out, and what we did was we went for a structured walk. 10 minutes. 10 minutes at a brisk pace. No e-collar work, no nothing, just a brisk, structured walk for 10 minutes. I wanted to remove her from this area. I wanted to get her mind moving forward, and I wanted to show her many different pictures, all right? So at the end of that 10-minute walk, right before I allowed her to go in the house, she started going in ahead of me to get into the house. I used the e-collar and called her to me one time. She came a lot easier than before. I praised her big time and we ended it. I put her away. 10 minutes later, I took her back out and we started a little more work. This time, if you guys remember from the first video, she was scared to death of a place board, but she knows that very well now and she's excited to do it. So now what I did is when I went over to the plastic crate top, and now I was utilizing the e-collar with calling her to me and sending her to the place, back and forth. because I didn't want her to think that the only way that she avoids all of this mental torture is by hiding by me. So now I started working her. And what I did was I gave her a lot of the power to better her own situation. Okay, so send her to a place with the e-collar, call her to me with the e-collar, back and forth, 5 minutes. And in that 5 minutes, she started coming around. After 5 minutes, I ended it. I put her away for 10 minutes, let her relax. When I took her out 10 minutes later, we went for another structured walk. 10 minutes exactly, at a brisk pace. And right at the end, I did probably 4 repetitions. Place, come, place, come, place, come. She did much, much better. Again, I ended it. I put her away. All right? You understand where I'm going with this? I did this for a few hours. Okay, really short sessions, made it very positive, you know, and each time I took her out of her resting in her pen, she got a little better and a lot less freaked out. Okay? The last thing I did in the evening with her, the very last thing, is we went for one more structured walk at a good pace, moving well, okay? Moving well. Then what I did was, as we were coming back, right before I ended it for the night, I did probably 30 seconds of work. Place, come, sit, away from my home, in a different area. I want to show her different pictures, okay? So I did this at the end of the street, away from my home. I don't want her to associate that sensation with the underground fence. I don't want her to associate it with just my location, my driveway, my yard. So I showed her many different pictures over these hours. So at the end of my street, I worked on, you know, come, sit, down, just things that she knows very well already, all utilizing the e-collar. And then after a very short session, I just dumped a big handful of really high value food and she ate it up. And that's when I knew she was okay. That's how I ended the evening. That's how I ended the evening. And it went very, very well. There was no more fear, no more anxiety. And like I said, a few hours before, it couldn't have been any worse. Couldn't have been any worse. So when I took her out this morning, I did one very short 10-minute session, working her with the e-collar, place, come, sit, things she knows, with food reward, and I'm able to start the conditioning process normal now. Now she's not freaked out and she's taking food, and I completely changed what she thinks up in her head. Because before, all she was doing was waiting for the big blast to come. That's what happens when she blows through the underground fence, and that's what she associates that sensation to. Okay, so you have to change the mindset. You change the mindset and the body follows. All right, so I thought it was important to let people know, because I get this question a lot. A lot of trainers struggle with this, and what they do is a lot of them just give up and they don't use the e-collar because the dog had a bad experience. No, don't do. They all turn around, guys. I've never had one in all the years I'm doing this that doesn't turn around very quickly. You just have to know what you're doing. Okay, you got to think about how the dog sees things. And when you think about how the dog sees things, that's how you could straighten the mind out. So I hope this helps some of you. If it helps just one person and one dog, then it's well worth it. All right, and I'll try to get some video here this week of her work. She's doing really well. You know, I'm in a little bit of love. There's no doubt about it. I'm really liking her. And she's coming around and really perking up and getting to be a very confident young lady. All right, so I hope this helps, folks. Peace. Happy Friday. Have a glass of scotch tonight on me. Peace out.